Archaeology is the study of buildings and objects that people made a long time ago. Archaeologists take a look at how people lived before writing was invented. They examine their daily life and what they left behind. They also try to find out why cultures and civilizations fell apart or why people of the time hunted certain animals. Television is one of our world's most important means of communication. It shows us information programs, like the news, documentaries, and sports events. We can watch films, listen to interviews and hear the sounds of events that happen far away. Television teaches us about countries and cultures, and we can enjoy entertainment, like serials, comedies, game shows or sitcoms. The space race began in the 1950s. It was the time of the Cold War, in which the United States and the Soviet Union fought for technological superiority. Each country wanted to prove that its political and economic system, capitalism on one side and communism on the other, was better. Both superpowers wanted to launch the first satellite and put a human being into space. The space race was also a part of the arms race after World War II. The 1960s were an era of protest. In the civil rights movement, blacks and whites protested against the unfair treatment of races. Towards the end of the decade, more and more Americans protested against the war in Vietnam. Many people in the United States thought that Americans had no reason to fight in war that was so far away from home. Female activists demanded more rights for women, whose role in society began to change. Two of the major events of the Cold War took place in Berlin. After World War II, the city was divided into 4 zones. The French, British and American zone became West Berlin and the Soviet zone became East Berlin. When the Soviets tried to cut off supply routes to the city, the Americans reacted by airlifting food, clothes and other supplies to Berlin to help the city survive. Four years after the atomic bomb had been dropped over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the Soviets exploded their first atomic bomb and became a nuclear power. During the decades of the Cold War, both countries increased their nuclear stockpiles. They developed intercontinental missiles which could reach all corners of the world in a short time. During the 1970s, each country had enough nuclear weapons to wipe out all life on Earth. The NATO Doctrine says that an attack on one of its member states is an attack on the whole organization. NATO put this policy into use for the first time after the terrorist attacks against the USA in September 2001. Although not all NATO members wanted to help the US in the fight against terrorism, the alliance supported the US in the war in Afghanistan, a country that allowed terrorists to hide. John Glenn was one of NASA's first astronauts and the first American to orbit the Earth. He belonged to the Mercury 7, a group of astronauts that would be sent into orbit at the beginning of the space race. Glenn was born in Ohio in 1921. In his early life he was a fighter pilot in the Marine Corps during World War II and the Korean War. After the war he attended classes at the University of Maryland where he got a degree in chemistry. Visual arts are forms of art that you can see, such as drawing, painting, sculpture, printmaking, photography and filmmaking. Design and working with textiles are also often referred to as visual art. Visual arts have changed over the centuries. During the Middle Ages, artists created paintings, sculptures or prints and became famous. Today, visual arts applies to many different forms.
Photography is making pictures by letting light through the lenses of a camera onto a film. In analog photography, light was recorded onto a film, which had to be chemically developed. Images could then be printed onto special paper. Today most photography is digital. Cameras have no film. The images are recorded onto silicon chips.
Over history, big structures have been built for many other purposes. The Great Wall of China is the largest man-made object on Earth. It was built to keep invaders out of China. Political monuments have been built throughout history to show the power of a country or its society. Statues of the Soviet Union's founder, Lenin, are found all over Moscow and other Russian cities. Egyptian houses were made of dried mud and had flat roofs. Poor people lived in simple huts while the richer people in the cities lived in buildings that had up to 3 floors. The houses had small windows to keep out the sun and help the house stay cool. Ancient Egyptians did many different things in their free time. They liked to go swimming and fishing in the Nile River. Hunting crocodiles, lions and other wild animals were popular sports among ancient Egyptians. Most ancient Egyptians were farmers. In a country that had almost no rainfall, Egyptian farmers depended on the Nile River. They built canals to bring water from the Nile River as far into their land as possible. They also prayed that the yearly floods would make their land fertile. The main crops were wheat and barley. Some farmers produced dates, grapes and other fruits and vegetables.
Amphibians are cold-blooded animals. Their body temperature is about the same as their surroundings. Most animals move to other places to adjust their body temperature if it gets too hot or too cold. Depending on the climate, amphibians hibernate or are inactive during the year when it gets too hot or cold.
A research report says that virtual worlds can be important places where children practice what they will do in real life. They are also a powerful and attractive alternative to more passive adventures like watching TV. The research was done with children using the BBC's Adventure Rock virtual world, aimed at those aged 6 to 12. The publishers of the report say that virtual worlds can be a powerful, engaging and real interactive alternative to more passive media. They urged creators of virtual spaces for children to get young people involved very early on because they really do have good ideas to add and they are very good critical friends. Europe's single currency, the euro, is celebrating its 15th birthday. Introduced in 12 European countries in 2002, the euro has been stable over long periods of time, but there have also been challenges. Greece has received money from the European Central Bank to restructure its economy and fight its financial problems. Money is something that is very difficult to explain. People in various cultures think of money in different ways. A London banker and an African tribesman have different ideas of what money is. Many people think of money as a currency, metal coins and paper bills. We need it to buy the things in life that we need. We also get money for the work that we do. Paper money came into use about 300 years ago. The idea came from goldsmiths who gave people pieces of paper in exchange for their gold. These bills could be exchanged for their gold later on. They told you that real gold and silver existed somewhere. Until the middle of the 20th century, governments all over the world had deposits of gold that was worth as much as the money they gave to their people. Paper money had many advantages. It was cheaper to make and easier to carry around.